Sens fans, welcome to Season 4, Episode 9 of the Senstennial Podcast, a member of the Hockey Podcast Network. This week, we've got some good, we got some bad that we want to discuss, and we're going to kick things off with what you love to hear first, the bad. Thomas Chabot goes down with a concussion. Not what you want to hear, being a mainstay on Ottawa's blue line, playing upwards of 25 minutes a night. Definitely not the news Sens fans wanted to hear, especially with Zub already out on that blue line. So I'll flip it to Other Matt. Other Matt, what did you think about Thomas Chabot going down, and what do you think the Sens do about it?
I think it's really unfortunate. I thought he was actually playing a pretty good game. I know that Sens fans have been on his butt recently, not feeling like he's been ready or up to the task of being a top two defenseman, which, criticism is totally fair. Let's remember not to turn on our a cornerstone defenseman, though. It sucks. And it was a play that wasn't penalized and that should have been looked at for a suspension within the league. It was total hit on the numbers. He saw numbers the whole time, Konechny, that is, and still made the hit. It's a dangerous hit that shouldn't be in hockey, yet here we still are. And to add insult to injury, Zub is out and our defense gets thinner and thinner. And this is why we consistently hearken back to the fact that we didn't make a deal for a defenseman and we should have made a deal for a defenseman and we sat on our hands, and that's sort of where we're at. It sounds like Zub might be back next week, but
yeah, and I think we can get to the whole whether the Sens should have found an off-season solution to their defensive woes, or at least expected to not be great blue line. But I'd say another note on Chabot. I think criticism is more than fair, but I think throwing the guy under the bus and saying like he should be traded or stuff like that, that's a little bit too far for me. But I'll flip back it over to Bennett. And Bennett, what did you think about Chabot?
Yeah, obviously, missing him is really rough for this team, especially, having it shifts the whole depth chart for the team for the amount of time that he's going to be out. Sanderson has looked very good, deputizing for him on the top line on that left-hand side, but that also means Hamonic moves up and gets exposed. And as we know, Hamonic gets exposed over and over again, regardless of where he's playing, and just giving him more minutes is only going to bring the team down further. I think that in terms of criticism of Chabot, I think that it's clear that he hasn't had the best start to the season. That being said, I think that people don't really understand what Chabot brings to this team in terms of his stability and his ability, with the puck, without the puck. The team would absolutely be in a worse position without Chabot, even if he isn't playing at his best. And again, part of that reason is that, he's always a lock. He's a lock for big minutes each night. He's a lock on that top left side. And that means that it provides cover for everybody below him. And while I think that as the season goes on and as subsequent seasons go on, we'll see Sanderson eat more and more minutes and, ease some of the burden on Chabot further. That will probably help Chabot's game as well. And I also would not be surprised if Sanderson, did surpass Chabot in the depth chart. I mean, he's always been a player with higher pedigree, arguably based on his draft position and the expectations coming in. So yeah, I mean, the point is that we have two really good defenders and in Chabot and Sanderson, and it means that our left side is very strong, and it means that there's a gap on the right-hand side. And it also means that right now with Chabot out, that there's kind of gaps everywhere, because then that just shifts everything. So hopefully it's a minor concussion. He'll be back soon in a couple of weeks, and he can get back to eating major minutes. Although hopefully not too many.
Yeah, hopefully Sanderson can help unburden some of the load that Chabot's had the past few years. Yeah. But I was going to say, speaking of defensemen and guys that had to fill in because of Chabot's injury, Jacob Larson, the free agent signing that the Sens got, who was previously in the Anaheim Ducks organization, he had a decent showing. I was there for the game, and there were a couple times where I wasn't thrilled with some of his decisions made, but generally I was actually more than fine with how he played. And I mean, I guess the eye test wasn't too bad because analytically, apparently he was our best defender, or one of the best defenders on the night for the Sens. So that's interesting. But it causes problems with your depth, right? Sanderson moves up to your top pairing with Travis Hamonic. And as we all know, Travis Hamonic, he has his moments where, you know, you like what you see from him, but generally at least once, possibly twice a game, something happens defensively that you're not too fond of. Against the Islanders, it was Nick Holden, sadly, who made that big gaffe and failed to clear the puck that led to the Isles getting that scoring chance and led to the second goal for them. But yeah, it's tough, right? And JBD has been playing great so far, but you can't just rely on rookies to carry you the way with Sanderson and Jacob Bernard-Docker. So hopefully the Sens go out and do something. I've talked a little bit with people on Discord and Twitter about Luke Shen. He's a guy who's a depth right-handed defenseman on the Canucks, making, I believe, 850 for this season, 850K, I should specify. And, you know, he might be a guy that the Sens look at to help with their blue line depth. But one thing I want to make note of, and I guess we can get into the conversation about potentially helping out that blue line with external options, is Gord Wilson. I heard him on the radio and he was saying that it's not as easy as just pulling the trigger on a trade. You know, other GMs know that Pierre Dorion is dealing from a position of weakness right now. And, you know, when he calls other GMs and they're like, oh, you'd like a defenseman, would you? We see you sitting third last in the standings there. You know, it's like, what are you willing to give up to get a defenseman? So other GMs get greedy. They see the desperation that Ottawa has. They know that Market had high expectations going into the season. So I think that kind of handcuffs Dorion a bit and potentially puts him at risk of overpaying in a deal. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. But yeah, I guess, like, Ben, do you have any thoughts on defensive core and whether you think they should go to external options to really fix things, or just kind of go with what you got and hope that Zub and Chabot are back sooner rather than later?
It's a tough question. Do I think that this team needs additional reinforcement on defense? Absolutely. But do I think that now, when we're over the barrel, is the time to do it? Like you say, it makes the calculus a little bit different. Teams know that the Sens are in a tough spot. There's not a lot of quality right-hand defenders available right now that fulfill the kind of role that the Sens are looking for. Like, let's be honest, like, the Sens are looking for just like Zub 2.0, right? Like, you just want like a reliable shutdown guy who can pop up like semi occasionally with a goal or a couple of assists, but really who just like puts out fires. And, you know, guys like Hamonic, you know, that's not his game. He's past it. He should be playing for us or for any other NHL team. We all know that. Holden, again, you know, he's in the twilight of his career. Last season, he was reliable most of the time. This season, not so much. Has been found out time and again. So what we really need is just, like, if Jacob Bernard-Docker, we know, can fulfill a role on that side, and that's what we want to see. Lassie Thompson, I'd say, you know, we've already waived Zaitsev. We should go ahead and do the same for Hamonic, and, you know, give Thompson a shot on that right-hand side. But long term, it's going to need to be another body, and it's going to be probably another body externally. But that being said, it might not make sense to do that right now when we know Zub is about to come back. At least we hope. And when we know that teams are going to be, you know, there's a high possibility that we will end up overpaying for someone who is not actually that good and isn't worth it. And that's, I mean, the last thing that we need to do is panic and get settled with Hamonic 2.0 when what we need is Zub 2.0.
Yeah. I think we're in a crappy situation where, I mean, we can go back to every recording from the start of the season on, basically saying we should have went out and got a defenseman when we could have, and this, that, and the other thing. And yeah, we definitely should have. And the options for right shot defensemen are limited at best. I mean, just recently, the Sharks put Erik Karlsson on the market. Maybe we should go and get that. Probably not, but guys like a John Marino who was available and went for virtually nothing. That is a deal that Dorion should have been very much in on. Was his sights solely fixed on Jacob Chikrin? Who knows? Was he looking at other options? Was Klingberg basically done and then something happened? Who knows? But I think it would be a mistake looking at our decor saying, yep, this is the decor we're going into the season with, and expecting it to go well. Our forward core would, probably cover the butts of our defensive lapses, but at the same time, like, you have a guy like Travis Hamonic playing in your top four when most teams
on your
probably
top pairing now with
on your top pairing now,
him and
yeah,
Sanderson moved up, yeah.
So most teams wouldn't even have him playing. He'd be like an extra body type deal, and it's really frustrating looking back and how excited we all were about this 4-game winning streak that we went on at home, and now we've lost 8 of 9 our last games, something like that. That's pathetic. And at what point does Dorion just like accept this mediocrity that this team is performing with? We had 6 power plays yesterday. Nothing came of that. Our last game, we had 6 power plays. And then our defensive core just sort of lapses when it comes to guys coming on the ice that aren't named JBD or Sanderson or Brandstrom. And and Jacob Larson had a good game, which is great, but he's a left shot defenseman, and that doesn't help us at all. So at what point do you just like want to go up to Dorion, shake him, and say, go get us a capable freaking right shot defenseman? Like, do it. Find somebody. Is it Connor Murphy in Chicago? Is it Colton Parayko in his 8-year deal? Is it Damon Severson in New Jersey because they have Simon Nemec coming up? Who is it? But if you're already looking at this season in the rearview mirror because teams are passing you, it's too late. And last week it was let's not hit the panic button, but now we're like, okay, maybe they should win more and do something, because it's getting to a critical point in the next 5 games. That's when teams are out of it.
Yeah, and maybe now would be a good time to switch into the whole coaching staff situation. And Dorion came out with a statement saying that coaching wasn't the problem with the team, which I think sparked a lot of fan responses on social media. There was a lot of people who were not happy that Dorion said that. I know some people want I should say, I think it's turning into most Sens fans want DJ Smith fired. To me, I think the problem is, and I've said this on the podcast before, it seems like the team really likes DJ Smith. And I think that makes it really hard for the GM to fire a guy when the team isn't tuning him out yet, at least from what we hear from players and from the organization. But to me, it's like, yes, okay, the Sens technically have a power play that ranks in the top half of the league, but they just feel so stagnant. And you can't have a power play that's just stagnant, guys just passing the puck to one another and waiting for that perfect lane to shoot. You need to be dynamic. You need to move around the ice. You got to open up those lanes. Otherwise, the players will just, like the opposing players in the defensive end, they'll just kind of do a diamond formation and they won't really have to move much and they'll be fine to block most shooting lanes. So I feel like, it might be unique and I doubt it would happen, but switching out the power play coach, going away from Davis Payne and finding someone else who can run the power play, or, letting go of Jack Capuano, who wanted to pursue opportunities elsewhere anyway, and going after a coach who might be out there who's better at developing or at least working with defensemen and seeing how that works. So instead of just firing DJ Smith, try to maybe part with other members of the coaching staff and bring in guys who can support DJ Smith. I don't know. I know that'd be a rare situation. It was a thought I had, might be interesting, but I'll flip it back onto you guys and say, if you were to make a call on the coaching staff, and I kind of asked a similar question last week, would you now, being a week later, still hold the same opinion of no, he shouldn't be fired? Or are you starting to move towards that yes? And have you thought about potential replacements who you'd like to see behind the bench?
Yeah, let me just say first off that I think that I understand what Pierre Dorion was saying, and that like some of the things that are plaguing the Sens right now. I mean, like, we've been dancing around this, but I mean, the Sens are in something of an injury crisis, especially on the blue line. And I don't think that we can completely discount that. I don't think that it is an excuse. And I think that the Sens were arguably playing poorly before then. But I think that it does need to be said. And maybe that's something that he was getting at. I think that DJ Smith is a better coach than he's given credit for by some Sens fans, and is, I think, one of the first coaches we've had in a while that I could actually see being employed by another NHL team. We were talking about this just before we started recording. No Sens coach since Jacques Martin has ever been hired by another NHL team after being let go by the Sens.
As a head coach. But yes, yeah.
Yes. I mean, like, this is just like reading the Sens list of coaches on Wikipedia is basically just like reading a list of failures and has-beens. And if they're just going to get rid of DJ and replace him with another guy who's never going to be hired by another NHL team, then I don't think it matters. And let me tell you about Sens coaching. Remember the Uber video that came out in 2019? Sorry, that was 2018.
How could we forget?
Yeah, in 2018 was a year of Sens drama for the ages, and one of the highlights was the Uber video where you see Matt Duchene and Chris Weidman and other Sens players slagging off the Sens coaches in an Uber from one of the games, and it got recorded. And remember, all the drama was like, oh, they shouldn't have been saying that, blah blah. But Sens fans all agreed on one thing, which was they weren't wrong. Everything that they were saying was true. This is a team that has been historically undercoached, and not just by the head coach, but by all of the video coaches, all of the assistant coaches. Everyone on this team is subpar. And the reason for that is, like decades of non-investment in the hockey operations side of the team, the cutting of everything from the top to the bottom of the organization to the bare bones that we know was happening under Melnyk. And this might be a new dawn for the Sens. Melnyk is gone, and the team is for sale, and we're seeing some positive vibes, some changes that have happened in the organization. But this is still Melnyk's team, and this is still Melnyk's underfunded, under-equipped hockey operations department, and everything from the GM right down to the coaches. And I think DJ is a symptom of that, and I don't think that all of this is on him, because DJ is a coach that has the trust of the players in that room, and you can't say that about basically any of the coaches that have preceded him. But there's failure everywhere else around him, and some of it is on him. And I think that in most situations, firing the coach in a situation like this would probably be the right move, whether it's deserved or not, because it's shown that can kickstart a team. But if we're going to fire him, we better replace him with someone real. And, I know that I'll kick it over to you, Matt, in 1 second, but, Claude Julien is available. Barry Trotz is available. If we fire DJ Smith and just promote one of the mans from like Belleville, I don't know their names, I'm sorry, Trent or Troy.
It would be Troy.
It's Troy.
Yeah. If we promote Troy Mann from Belleville after firing DJ Smith, we may as well not bother. Hire from outside the organization. Get some new blood. Get someone who's a real freaking coach, and don't bank on looking for a solution internally.
I agree sort of with that, only because I think an outside hire to succeed, DJ is probably the right call. But I know a lot of good hockey minds have been saying Troy Mann has been criminally underrated in professional hockey for a long time. He was winning with a powerhouse Hershey Bears team for a long time. And everybody that goes through him has great things to say about him. With that said, you have two guys who have won cups sitting on the bench right now. You have Claude Julien, you got Barry Trotz. A outside sort of shout out to Rick Tocchet, who is also available, who for a while was doing some surprisingly good things with the terrible Arizona Coyotes. At what point do we keep accepting mediocrity in the form of our coaching staff? I just saw a stat that said out of the 6 worst starts in Senators history, 4 of them were under DJ Smith. That's too many. Why is a coach afforded that much leash? It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. We are a results-oriented business. The Senators are a hockey team that needs to win games to succeed. If they don't do that, we're just in the basement yet again. And I don't want to get Connor Bedard because we suck. I want to get him because we're on the outside looking in, and our lottery spot just happened to win it for us. But you're right. We need to go and get somebody who's a bona fide winner. I think a guy like Claude Julien fills all of the marks for Sens fans, and he brings an element of Quebecois to how important the fan base going over to Gatineau should be. Like having that fan base coming in to downtown games would be hugely important. But I don't think it's marketed enough to the Gatineau side. And I think he would be a great fit with the organization. But as of right now, why is DJ Smith getting so many chances? I said 15 games in or 20 games in, DJ Smith will be fired if we're under 500. He now has 5 games to figure things out, because if he doesn't, the writing's on the wall. He's going to get fired, and that's it. You heard it here, folks.
What's up, Sens fans? NFL Sundays are only getting better, and so are the incredible offers at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sport betting partner of the NFL. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win, and then get $200 in free bets if they do. Right now, everyone can earn up to 100% boost with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sports app, place a same-game parlay, and combine multiple bets like which team will win, player props, and point totals. I've been using DraftKings mostly on hockey, but it's been a great experience and I highly recommend it. With bigger payouts than ever, DraftKings Sportsbook is my go-to when betting on the NFL. Download DraftKings Sportsbook now, use promo code THPN, and place a $5 pregame moneyline bet to get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, with code THPN.
So we're going to go from some bad news and we're going to flip it around and go to the good news. And what's better than a good Alfie Hockey Hall of Fame induction story? And that is just awesome. And I'm so happy that Daniel Alfredsson, longtime captain of the Ottawa Senators, he is now officially in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's got the jacket. He's got the plaque given to him by Matt Sundin. It's official. So that's some good news. And, absolute legend in the city for what he's done both on the ice and off the ice. A huge advocate for mental health awareness. Partnering up with the Royal Ottawa. It's just great to see. And of course, on the ice, just beloved. And Erik Karlsson did a piece in the Players Tribune just saying how much Daniel Alfredsson meant to him as both a mentor and as a best friend. And that was really wholesome. And I loved reading that. If you haven't checked it out, you definitely should. But on that note, Matt, what did you think about Daniel Alfredsson officially getting inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame?
I think it's how long has he been eligible? 5 years now? 5 years too late. He's been a certified Hall of Famer since the moment he retired. There aren't many players that can do what he did, not only for the community in Ottawa, but international hockey and Swedish hockey in general. Erik Karlsson, one of the premier Swedish defensemen of all time now, was saying how much he idolized Daniel Alfredsson, despite being a forward. And he's everything that the Senators could have hoped for and more, because he exemplified whatever it meant to be an Ottawa Senator at any given time. And he was just an all-around great guy. Like, reading so many good stuff about him after he was inducted, stories about, some of his like community work. I read one today where he was asked by reporter Ken Warren to speak at his wife's underprivileged school that she was teaching at, and he, without missing a beat, agreed. They do the practice the next couple of days later, and he was expecting, do you need a car? Like, what's who's going to be taking you? He's like, no, I'm just going to follow you. And then his wife also joined, and she was 5 months pregnant at the time, and he was hearkened like a hero when he arrived. And he really is. He spoke about how important mental health is, how important it is to be kind and to be caring, and how awesome hockey is, and all that sort of stuff. Like, you can't say a bad thing about him unless you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. And even then, like, at what point do you just let it go because you see Matt Sundin handing him something? And if your idol has our idol in such high regard, I think maybe it's just sort of meant to be. And I'm really happy that he finally got in, as I said, 5 years too late.
Yeah, we were at the game last night, and we watched the Hockey Hall of Fame induction ceremony and the speech that Alfredsson gave. As you may expect, Alfredsson was graceful, humble, and kind in his speech. He was generous with praise and admiration for his teammates and his families, and for the people of Ottawa, and for Erik Karlsson in particular, a close friend of his, who obviously also had kind words to say about Alfredsson in return. I think it's a big win just for the city and the organization to see that recognition of this person that we've held up as, an example of, not just exceptional skill and determination, but also, grace and civility. He's been a hero in Ottawa for decades, and it means a lot to this organization, and as well as to him and his family, to get that recognition officially from the Hockey Hall of Fame. It was also interesting to see, the other players that he was inducted alongside, the Sedin twins, as well, like these three Swedish legends that are all going in together. I believe that the woman that was inducted this year was also Swedish, if I'm not mistaken, although I apologize, her name escapes me. And Roberto Luongo is a really deserving class of Hockey Hall of Fame inductees. And I think that just seeing Alfredsson in there for Sens fans, especially after a game in which we was very disappointing to watch, it was just nice to win one, as Kevin Malone would say.
Yeah, no, I think both of you guys said it well. It was really nice to see that speech, and his brother was choked up and crying, and I was like, man, I couldn't imagine, your brother's like this legend in the NHL, and yeah, it must be just very emotional to see that. And Alfie's four sons were there, and I was like, oh my God, I remember them being like kids. And I mean, I'm not that old myself, but I was like, man, I remember when they were really young. So it's just kind of funny to see them going from sitting behind the glass and waving at their dad during games to now being, probably junior eligible soon, if not already for the OHL. So yeah, maybe in a few years the Sens will be drafting a new Alfredsson onto the roster. That'd be pretty sweet. But yeah, I don't have much more to add. You guys really covered it and nailed it, honestly. I think it's just a huge win for the Ottawa Senators. Of the names in the modern era that are being lifted to the rafters, I think Alfie stands out, and that's not trying to dismiss what Chris Neal and Chris Phillips have done. Both have done a lot of work for the community as well, but just as like an absolute Ottawa Senators legend, and seeing fans at that game against the Islanders chanting Alfie when it was at 11-11, that was so cool. And you just don't see that with a lot of players, no matter if they're a legend of the team or not, right? And it's just a cool, unique thing for Ottawa. And again, seeing him go into the Hockey Hall of Fame, I think it was well-deserved. Like you said, Matt, it was long overdue. And what more can you say? It's just a good story. And I'm glad that, like Bennett said, the Sens got a win, at least off the ice.
I think there's a lot to cheer about with that. And I think there's a lot to cheer about with the current Senators, aside from the losing streak. But we have a lot of talent, and we're getting to see them sort of come into fruition. Brady Tkachuk is top 10 in scoring in the NHL right now, and every point he gets, a little subtle dunk is had on Bennett.
That's right.
I'm kind of hoping to put a basketball net outside of Bennett's house and really ask Brady to come by one day and dunk a basketball at his house, because at this point, what can you say? He's looking exceptional, and Stützle is looking awesome.
Yeah,
he had a heck of a game against the Islanders. I think it's been a lot of doom and gloom with the Senators podcasts lately. And I think what's one positive thing that you guys are loving right now? Who's getting your goat right now with the Sens?
Well, you gave out a few shout outs there, and I'll give one more, and I think it's very well deserved. And that's Claude Giroux. Man, that guy puts his heart and soul into every game. He's consistently been one of Ottawa's best players. People, especially in other markets, but there were some doubts in this one about what Claude Giroux could bring to the table at 34 years of age. He is a point per game player. Every game he's showing up, and he's a workhorse. And he's really frustrated with how the team's been performing. And you know what? I feel a lot better with having a leader like him in the room than some of the former veterans that the Sens have brought in to be that guy for the team. Like Claude Giroux has experience. He's been to a cup final. He's seen it all. He's been in some heated playoff battles against guys like Sidney Crosby. So I think to have a guy like him in the locker room and how he's playing on the ice, I think, if he had 5 points in 15 games, then that's an issue. But no, he's leading by example on the ice, and he has the longevity in his career. Like the stats show that he can back that up. So I don't know. I have to give a shout out to Claude Giroux because I've loved what I've seen from him, but I'll flip it back to Bennett.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to talk about Brady Tkachuk for a second. There's a lot of.
He's like, hold on, let me clear my name.
There's a lot of misinformation out there about who Tkachuk is and who drives him to be the player that he is today. People erroneously say that it's having Keith Tkachuk, a father like him, driving behind him in his corner, an older brother Matthew who broke into league before Brady. I think that we all know that I'm the reason why Brady Tkachuk is having the year that he is. I've been a long time, always demanding more of him, wanting to see more offensive production, more skill, playing to his strengths. I think he's doing all of that, obviously because of my comments in the past. So I'm happy to take credit for that. And if he wants to come by my house and shoot some hoops and, like the father-son relationship that we do have, I can, offer him some additional pointers. And and beyond that, I'd wanted to also give a shout out to Claude Giroux. He's exceeded all of my expectations for how he would play coming onto the Sens. But we've already done that. So I'm going to give a shout out to another person who's done exactly that, which is Jake Sanderson. We've talked a little bit about him all year long, but this guy is unbelievable. He is, he has 7 points in 15 games, which is fine. He's a +4. He's one of the better defenders in terms of even strength Corsi on the team. But above all, he just looks like he belongs. Like he's played 15 games in the NHL and he's playing on the top line and nobody is batting an eye. He's not getting found out. He's not getting caught out. He's out a couple of times. He was defending in our end at the game last night, and my wife and I were just sitting there. It's like you can just watch him, and you see him every shift do something smart. If it's keeping the puck in at the blue line on the power play, which he's been quarterbacking seamlessly, as if as if he was Thomas Chabot. He's we've seen him get a stick in the passing lanes and break up and the opportunity to find an opposing player in the slot. Like he prevents that before it happens and saves their goalie have to make a save. Just every game or every shift, every game, you see him do things like that, and he's only going to get better. So wow, what a player! And talk about exceeding already high expectations of him.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad we could give some positive shout outs because there's been a lot of negative, like Matt said. And yeah, it's good to get some good in there. So thank you so much for listening or watching to this week's episode. We really appreciate all the support that we get from all of our listeners and viewers. So thank you so much. You can find us on Discord. I'm in the Sens Discord, Senstennial Matt. I know Bennett and other Matt are both in there too. We're on Reddit. We post stuff there. And also on, of course, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the Senstennial Podcast. So please find us on all those platforms. Really appreciate it. Go Sens go. We're going to get out of this rut, I believe. And we're going to see some more positivity here in the future.